Welcome and thank you for joining us to have all of you in this webinar today. I'll briefly talk about our 17 years of journey, and it's great that some of you who've been part of our journey at various points in time are also part of today's webinar. So here we go, from systems to ecosystems, our journey to impact at scale. Next, please. I think it's not an exaggeration to say urban India underpins India's dreams and aspirations, and its importance is only going to grow. Today there are 32 crore people living in urban India, which is more than the population of US. In 30 years of time, there'll be 82 crores, and 70% of GDP is going to come from urban India. While this is a great opportunity, I think there are challenges also. Next slide, please. Whichever you look at it, the governance and service delivery issues are a big bottleneck in urban India. And it's a large and complex landscape. There are more than 4,400 cities and towns. Needs of the cities like Jalandhar, which are big, are very different from a town like Jagdalpur. There are issues around languages. There are more than 23 official languages. And there are issues around capacity, in terms of number of municipal employees per 10,000 citizens. India is at 4.5. Comparable Southeastern countries like Thailand, Indonesia, around 8. Western countries like UK, cities like London and New York at 15. So I think this puts a big pressure as more and more people move into urban India for opportunities. This problem is going to get more acute. Next, please. And what we're seeing is, all the key stakeholders across Samaj, Sarkar, and Bazaar, the community, the government, and the market, face systemic and capacity challenges. The first one employees who deliver the services face problems of understaffing and lack of tools to do their jobs. You can argue the dignity of their work is not very high. The city administrators are always fighting fires. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a commissioner's office and they're scrambling around to get some data. They don't have access to reliable and timely data to make sense out of their cities. In addition, there are capacity issues in the government. State and central governments who make policies find it difficult to drive reforms at speed and scale. Again, a lack of reliable data and timely data limits the avenues for data-driven policy making and effectively tracking the impact of investments. Market players are averse sometimes because there are risks in participation. Also, there are limitations for smaller players to participate. In addition, local innovation, which is really kind of the real gold standard for thriving cities, is limited as access and availability of data and opportunities is also limited. And at the center of it is the poor citizen trying to get on with their daily lives, trying to get to work, trying to be effective and efficient. And they face difficulties in accessing services, in transparency, in reliably getting very, very basic services delivered. Community actors who are working in communities, whether they're NGOs or social impact players, find it difficult to participate because they don't have visibility to local issues. So as we look at ourselves, I think we exist to resolve these systemic challenges around governance that impact ease of living. Next slide, please. So this is what we are really about, catalyze urban transformation and enhance ease of living by embedding an open digital infra to improve governance in 4,400 towns and cities in India. There are a couple of words I want to highlight and stress on. Catalyze. We're deeply aware that to solve such a complex and multidimensional problem at a national scale, it's not something we can do alone, and we cannot be the bottleneck. It is important to collaborate, bring people together from Samaj, Sarkar, and Bazaar to kind of work as a coalition. It also means that our focus in the mission should be on distributing the ability to solve rather than trying to solve everything ourselves. Second word I want to stress is ease of living. Philosophically, we believe that everything we do should ultimately lead to better access, equity, and delivery of services to the common man on the street. Now, this has meant over the last 17 years, we've made multiple shifts in our approach and strategy in this journey. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. Next slide, please. This is a simplified depiction of our evolution over the last 17 years. eGov 1.0 in early 2000s was all about automation, moving process from offline to online. eGov 2.0 was a major move forward towards end-to-end digitization of services and workflows and providing citizens and employees a single interface to transact on. While we made steady progress, around 5 years ago or 6 years ago, we started thinking, and we were not happy at the scale and at the speed which we were going on. So we spent significant time rethinking through our approach and strategy. And we had questions like, how do we solve for scale? How do we engage ecosystem constructively and distribute the ability to solve? And what role should eGov play? What are we uniquely placed to do? This led to our 3.0 avatar, which you see on the right extreme, which had two broad pillars. One was platformization driven by open, modular, interoperable technology and digital platform, which enabled people to participate. But more importantly, for the first time, we moved from the comfort of doing things just from a technology point of view, because we had realized that technology is just a part of the jigsaw. There are other things that need to be done. That's where the work we're doing around catalyzing ecosystems for them to work together and create impact at scale, which means working with various actors to enhance their capabilities, driving collaboration and innovation, and also working on policy and market making side of things. This was not easy. I think I would say a good part of 18 to 24 months, because this was a big cultural change. For example, we used to participate in market. I think this meant we do not participate in the market, but act as an enabler and a catalyst for marketplace to participate. This also meant the software, which was our proprietary, was open sourced. Again, I think both from a habit point of view and cultural point of view and capabilities point of view, this was a major shift for us. Now let's double click on eGov 3.0. Next slide, please. This is what a work and operating model looks like. Digit platform is the first layer, and eGov is the main contributor here. This layer enables the service delivery at scale. It comprises of digital building blocks, open APIs, data exchanges, registries, solutions, and application. It's very important to note it's built as a public good. So it can be accessed by anybody without any restriction or fee. And other ecosystem players can also contribute to solutions and assets to the platform. The second layer, the co-creation ecosystem, which was new to us, we play the role of catalyst and an enabler. We enable the ecosystem through solution workshops, implementation playbooks, giving hands-on classroom training as well, and providing technology tools. In addition, we work with policymakers to create enabling policies and frameworks. The third layer is where the real action is, which is the impact programs. And our role there is really a connector and advisor role. We provide advisory support to government in designing programs and crafting enabling policies. We also play a convening role sometimes, bringing together governments, nonprofits, and enterprises to collaborate and build solutions on or programs for citizens and communities. Now let's see how this translates into action on the ground. Next slide, please. This is a depiction of how the three layers, of which I talked about in the last slide, come together to create impact. At the bottom is our open digital platform. We call it DIGIT, which stands for Digital Infra for Governance, Impact, and Transformation. The co-creation ecosystem that I talked about earlier, where we play the role of enabler, sits on top of it. Most of the action is in the program layer, where state, private players, and social players come together and create and deliver programs. So you see some of the examples on the fourth row. There's an M-Seva Punjab program, which basically in 167 ULBs, digitizing most 60 plus services. There's Nagar Seva on the Andhra Pradesh, There's also a program by central government for 6 northeastern states for online building plan approval. These programs deliver applications, accessing channels, and tools for both employees, administrators, and citizens. And you see some of the examples on the top: citizen app, an employee inbox, a dashboard, and a counter, ULB counter kind of enabled by the platform. So let's just, on the next slide, see what this has meant from an impact point of view. Next slide, please. So here's what the scorecard looks like. I think, as you can see, the y-axis shows the number of urban local bodies, the towns and cities which are engaged with us as a mission. The x-axis shows the timeline. As you can see, the first phase of our journey, eGov 1.0 and 2.0, we were trying to do a lot of things ourselves, but the scaling was extremely hard. What we see is once we switched the approach to building open public goods, playing a role of enabler and bringing ecosystem together, we've seen the hockey stick impact. So more than 2,400 urban local bodies, which is more than half of the urban local bodies in India right now engaged with the mission. We have more than 50 partners across market players, across community players, and obviously governments who are working with us. And more than 40 solutions have been built by these players on top of the platform. So clearly, I think this whole Jugalbandi of Samaj, Sarkar and Bazaar using platform and the ecosystem enablement as the baseline is working. I think we still have a long way to go, but I think we are quite happy to see the results so far. Next slide, please. And Hiren will talk later more about the different aspects of the impact. So I think this is where we are, but I think this is a multi-decade journey. We are quite clear on this, and we have miles to go before we sleep. One of the things we are really quite concerned about is whether digital exclusion is excluding some of the marginalized groups from the impact. So deepening and widening the impact by involving community players is very important. Also now we feel some of the foundational digital building blocks can be used beyond urban service delivery in areas like sanitation or public finance management. We are working with the Ministry of Urban Affairs to really look at citizen-centric smart governance as a national program and help them roll this out to all the ULBs by 2024. In fact, this is a stated goal of the ministry, and we're very happy to kind of support them in this. And finally, I think we need to think now about how this should be governed and institutionalized, that the platform is there, the tools and the assets around them are there. So how do we actually create governance structures around it? So once again, this is all from me. Hiren will talk a bit more about, and we have Mr. R.S. Sharma talking about his experiences. So I won't kind of come in between that. So thank you once again. I think special thanks to our backers, Nilekani Foundation, Tata Trust and Media Network, not just funding, but also as a thought partner. They've been a great support for us. And we look forward to creating more impact and making our city truly easy to live.